Good afternoon. Ruth Ann, how are you today?
I'm awesome, Keith. How are you?
Oh, I'm loving it. Monday. Crazy long weekend,
That's a good thing.
but not long enough.
Never.
So I would like to say welcome back to, but we're still kind of toggling names like
We don't know for sure.
real
the
estate,
RE.
mortgage, everything you need to know or didn't want to know, or Mythbusters for real estate.
We'll get there one day.
We'll figure that out. But any transactions, new deals this weekend? I know you had a
Yeah.
home inspection.
I had a home inspection and that went awesome. My people are staying in. Very few things wrong with the place. And then I also have a listing coming up in Hanover, Pennsylvania, a townhome, my first one in
And that's your first one in PA.
Yeah, pretty exciting.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I always start with a listing. I started real estate with a listing and I'm starting my Pennsylvania with a listing. Why not?
Well, that is wonderful. I'm not surprised.
No, it's a good time. I like
Because
being on
you're
that side.
doing great in this
Thank you.
so-called horrible,
Horrible
miserable
market.
housing market when everything's falling apart. But you know, it's funny. I got a few contracts last week, and what we've been talking about. I'm not saying the market is shifting, but I got 3 contracts, and all 3 of them had seller help.
Wow.
You know, so I mean, look. Yes, there is definitely a lack of inventory. I mean, we've known that, but there are buyers out there that want to buy. And I think, when rates settle down, I think you'll start seeing more people willing to list their homes and possibly, because again, people that are sitting at a 3% rate, they don't want to go to 7 or 7.5, but if you can get them 6 or in the 5s, kind of a normal market, that that's more enticing to them and probably more affordable for what they're going to end up paying with a new house. So
Absolutely, always helps. Well, let's not leave out our special guest
yeah,
today.
I mean, who is this finely groomed gentleman next to you? I feel ashamed.
Well, today we brought on my broker, Jim Hyatt, who started Exit Results Realty. We wanted to get a little bit of inside scoop from the master himself and find out what brought Jim into this business to begin with.
What brought me into the business? Well, this is actually my 24th year in the business.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I made it. I've seen some markets.
I
some
mean, if
ups
you
and
can
downs
stick out
and-
this business for 20 plus years, you're definitely doing something right.
Yeah, we actually opened our first location in 2009. So, if you remember that
amazing.
market, so there's always business to
I
be
do.
had. So,
Right.
no matter what the market.
That's what I try to tell people.
Yeah, it's especially we're very fortunate in our area. It's very transient. We have government and a lot of contracting jobs, Department of Defense. So we're always be in a good spot as far as geographically. But what got me into the business actually was the fact that I bought a home when I was 19 years old.
Wow.
So I bought my first home when I was 19 years old, and I moved in 2 roommates, and the roommates paid
Well,
my
what made
mortgage.
you decide to buy it? Because most 19-year-olds, like when I was 19 buying a home, I didn't even think about, and I kicked myself every day for it.
So everybody has to have a why, right? So
Right.
Funny enough, my why was I brought home a puppy. I told this story. It's funny enough, but I brought home a puppy, and my parents gave me an ultimatum. They said, either the puppy goes or you go.
Oh.
Bye.
Yeah. So I'm like, well, this puppy's way too cute to just like get back.
So you bought
Wait,
a
important
house.
thing. What kind of dog?
It was a Doberman Pinscher.
Oh,
Baby
okay.
Doberman Pinscher. Yeah.
Nice.
Sweetest little thing. So I called my grandfather, who was a real estate agent, and I was thinking, well, maybe you can find me something to rent that allows pets, right? So I said, can you find me something, Pops? I have this puppy, and he said, well, Jim, why would you ever rent something when you can actually buy something for less money a month, and I could probably get less money out of pocket to buy a home than it is to rent a home by the time you pay your security deposits, the first month's rent and everything.
Right.
With the programs that are out there. So ended up buying my first property at 19. At the time they had a program. It was an FHA. It was a HUD home, which had a 203 it was a 203B repair escrow. So
Okay, gotcha.
you could do your own work to the property.
So it had to be a HUD-owned property.
It was a HUD-owned property.
Right, yeah. Those
you know,
were great deals.
Went in with a FHA mortgage, negotiated some closing costs, I believe, from what I can remember. This is many years ago. And I did the repairs myself, and I ended up making money off the sale. So it was a $5,000 repair escrow. I think it cost me, you know, with the material and the you know, the sweat equity that I put into it, maybe $2,500. So I actually made money off of buying that home, you know, with that program back then. So I bought the home and moved in 2 roommates. The roommates were paying my mortgage and part of my utilities. And at the time, I was a FedEx driver. So actually, at the time, I was working at the airport, loading airplanes, 7:30 p.m. to like 4:30 a.m. That was my shift.
Oh, wow.
So that was my
That's
lifestyle,
tough.
right? So I see this income being made from real estate, or potential income that could be made with real estate, having property, and the light bulb went off. And that's kind of what started my journey into real estate many years ago.
So a lot of the things that we've talked about, you know, because Ruth Ann's a perfect example. You know, you've been a realtor for how long again?
2 years and 4 months.
Right. So, but from what I've always seen, because I've been in the business a long time, you know, most agents that start in the industry, you know, it's always like, well, don't plan on making any money or have enough money saved for 1 year or 6 months or whatever it is. But I mean, you've closed how many transactions just this year in your second year?
Just this year, I think I'm at 8, but that's not as many as I
But
could
you
be
also,
doing.
but you also have a management role. You have a lot of recruits under your belt.
Yes.
But okay, one of your recruits who's in his first year, how many
Oh
transactions?
gosh, he's at like 14 now just for this year and has already reached $100,000 in gross income. for-
Okay, so
Real estate.
so before we talk about what you do in particular, so what, like, because you had a steady salary at FedEx, so did you keep that job, do real estate during the day, or
I did.
how long did you kind of before you made the shift?
It was probably about 4 years. So
4
actually,
years.
you know, the first 4 years of my business, you know, I got into initially to be an investor, and then I, you know, sold a home here and there, and I saw the commissions that can be made, and but I really couldn't figure it out. You know, I bounced around to a couple of different brokerages, and you just try to, you know, pick the brains of anybody I saw that had their name on the sales board.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I was 4 years into the business, and it was, you know, the fees that it cost for MLS and other things. I was like, well, I'm kind of like, is it juice worth the squeeze? And then I almost gave my license back, and a friend of mine who does closings, he's like, Jim, I see, you know, I see at the time they're called HUD ones, now they're called, you know, Alto's closing disclosures, but he goes, I see HUD ones that have commissions upwards of $100,000 per sale to some of these agents that are making, you know, in the higher dollar volume. I'm like, really? Wow. So I ended up taking a training course, a coaching course called By Referral Only, and the trainer, the owner of that company was Joe Stump, and you know, actually a lot of the Brian Buffini type model, you know, building a database, nurturing relationships. So I took this coaching, and a couple things it did. When you get into this business, you have to keep yourself accountable, right? So what are you going to wake up and do every day? You know, or am I going to sleep in until noon and then do laundry? Like, what am I going to, you're your own boss.
Right.
So you got to figure out, you know, what calls am I going to make? What activities am I going to do? You know, who am I going to touch base with? I'm going to do open houses today. Like, but if you don't have any direction or guidance or somebody to follow and to be mentored under, or a coach to kind of give you accountability, that was the biggest challenge for me is holding myself accountable, because I came from a job where I had to punch in. I remember within a year, I was like probably late, punching the clock within a minute to 3 minutes late. I got suspended. They suspended me, and it was called a decision day. And basically, I had to come up with a plan on how I was going to correct my actions of being a minute to 3 minutes late 3 times over the span of a year.
And
So-
now you have a career that you don't have to be anywhere at any time.
So this is actually a funny story. So this is around the 4th year in the business where I started to get busy, hired a coaching system, started to build a team, business was picking up. And so I was like, do I really need, to continue? I had basically a plan of, so many transactions in my pipeline, so many months of savings in the bank. Do I really still need, and actually, I was actually losing income by not being available for showings during certain times. And sometimes those commissions would be 3 to 6 months worth of salary at FedEx on a single sale that I would lose. So,
Right.
but benefits. Everybody's like, I need to keep my job for benefits. I'm like, pay the $400 to $600 a month because at the end of the day,
Right.
a sale a year is going to pay for more than a year's worth. But anyhow, so I had to write a letter, right? And I had to go meet with my manager, and the letter was to explain how I was going to,
Over a minute late.
yeah. So,
Right.
I mean, it's like, there's plenty of jobs like this where I had to track every
it's
minute
a
of my day.
corporate world.
Yeah. I did, basically clock in and clock out for lunch, account for every minute. There's GPS trackers on your trucks. It was, that's kind of, it was very, controlled environment,
Did
right?
it come with the ankle bracelet?
Yeah, I mean,
Basic
So, yeah,
trackers.
kind of sort of. There's little
I
things
see
built in your truck.
I see
Yeah.
you. Don't
No,
go.
FedEx is a great company, so I just want to put it out there. But so I'm writing this letter. It gave me a lot of discipline, right? As a person, right? It gave me a lot of structure and discipline,
Sure.
which was, it was helpful at the end of the day. And another thing, every job that I've had up until the point of real estate has helped build me into the person to be a better real estate person, right? So, whether I was working in the service industry and meeting people or learning how to interact with them if I was a bartender, whatever the case may be, to delivering 100 packages a day when I became a driver, and meeting personalities of everybody different that I came in and delivered their pack. A lot of times it was paychecks or something that they were waiting for, excited about. So
Right.
that was the experience I had. Learning how to interact with people. So I'm writing this letter, and actually I remember it very clearly. It was actually a couple days after 9/11. And I'm sitting there, and I had my son for the day, and we're in the park, and I'm watching him play, and I'm just like, do I really need this lifestyle, right? I think real estate can provide me a lifestyle where I can have more free time, do more things with my family, provide a better life for my family. So I'm writing this letter, and my manager's name is Dave, good friend of mine now, Dave Lagna. And I was like, Dave, I have to let you go. So I reversed it, wrote this letter, and so I went and met with him the next morning, and it was basically my resignation letter. But I go to meet with him, and I'm like, Dave, my real estate's picking up, and I have to let you go. And he just had this look of shock. I was kind of joking a little bit, but he had this look of shock on his face because at the time that was a type of job that you just didn't walk away from. I mean, there's actually, so that was 20 some years ago. All of our real estate locations, the drivers that deliver are people that I worked with 20 some years ago.
Oh, wow.
They're still there, so.
Crazy.
But
But it's security.
it's security.
The benefits.
It's very hard to,
Yeah.
you got the guaranteed paycheck every
Yeah.
week. You get overtime, if you need some extra money, the health benefits. So it is hard for a lot of people to walk away from that mindset, that mentality of security.
Especially to 100% commission career.
Yeah, exactly. But what happens is once you jump in, once you figure out the formula, and once you jump in, there's no looking back. Like it's sink or swim. And if your family's depending on your income to make sure they have a roof over their head and food on the table, you figure it out.
Right.
You
Yeah,
figure it
you
out,
have
yeah.
to. So that's a good segue. So you let go of FedEx, you moved on and did 100% real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So now you own Exit Results Realty. You're part owner of Exit Results Realty. What is your, like, how did that shift go from being an agent to you can be a broker without owning your own business, but to actually have your own, real estate company, brokerage that you've opened. At one time you had 3, 4 locations?
Yeah, so it was kind of evolved over time. So initially, I was a very busy single solo agent, then I hired one administrator. Then I grew a team. This is when I was at Remax, to 5 agents and I think 2 administrators. Moved over into the Exit system. Prior to starting a brokerage with Tina in 2009. Was there for a couple years and grew a team of 15 agents, 4 or 5 administrators. And once I learned how to do that, all that really was building a team, a business within a brokerage,
Right.
you basically have a mini brokerage.
Yeah, you're running
So-
your own business through the brokerage name.
Yeah, and once you
basically.
figure that out, putting people in different, positions that they excel in, what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses? My strengths have always been business development, like big thinker. How do we grow? How do we get, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac accounts? How do we get, mortgage insurance companies to give us their assets to list in a down market? Okay, how do we do lead generation programs to bring more business into the team or the brokerage, right? That's always been my thing. That's how do I put all these pieces of the puzzle together? That's what excites me, right? So once I figured that out, Nancy and I, we decided let's go ahead and open our own brokerage. At the time it was 2009. We were busy.
And you were still selling at this
We're still
point.
selling,
Okay.
yes. And we got into distress sales because that was the market. I had a very big book of referral business. I had 2 moving trucks, billboards, I had all this stuff, right? This was way back in the day. So there had to be a little bit of a shift because there wasn't so many buyers buying anymore, but there was a lot of distressed sales. So it shifted into the asset market, sold the moving trucks, and then refocused my business on what was going on at the time. Now I had built over time a very healthy referral business, right? So the market shifted back, and all my referral business really picked back up again, and distressed sales went away. So I was always figuring out how do I keep up with the market, or say take advantage of the market, but just saying that we always say it's like with Wayne Gretzky's method, you got to go to where the puck's going to go, right? Not where it's at.
Right.
That's kind of how we've always had our shift in our mindset of where are we going to take our business. And we'll get to that, but years ago we figured out it's lead generation systems, right? And thank goodness we got into that because that saved us during these markets.
That's a huge part and a big incentive that I see as non-realtor, like just from looking in on the outside, that's dealt with many different real estate agents and different companies over the years. But before we dive into that, so you started the brokerage. When did you make the shift from, all right, you're going to step back from sales to where you're going to do what what you enjoy, just building and growing?
So like any business that you start up, it doesn't support itself financially, right?
Right.
So,
And you had to sell, essentially.
I had to sell, and I had a book of business, and I enjoyed selling. I tried to, kind of stop selling for many times, many years over, and I kept picking it back up because it was once you get it down, it's easy. It's like good life.
Right.
You have a referral clients that call you and say, please help me sell my house. Please help my brother buy a house or whatever. And when you get to that point in your business, it's hard to just build this book of business through relationships and be, sorry, here's somebody else that can help you.
And it's scary for you when you're turning it off because if you hadn't prepared properly, there's people, I see it all the time on the mortgage side. You have these, 70, 60, $50 million producers, and then they take some job as an area manager and they're non-producing, so they turn it off and just let it go. And then in 4 years, if that company gets bought or whatever, this guy's now what? He's got no one to manage anymore, and he's got no book of business. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, and it actually becomes your identity. So I had sold for 17 years, right? So I had a book of business, sold for 17 years is what I knew. At the same time, I'm a broker and dealing with all the issues that a broker deals with. At the same time, building the company, I think at the time we had 60 some agents, maybe 70-ish. We had opened another location. My partner Tina, she was picking up a lot of the stress of onboarding and hiring, the recruiting side of it, and building agents. And it got to the point where how do I serve my agents
and your clients.
and my clients? If I'm at a home inspection or a settlement, like I can't be taking calls if an agent has an issue.
Right, it's hard.
And
got to be difficult.
yeah, and my value at the time was deal doctrine. I could figure out solutions for pretty much anything. There's always a way to make things work typically.
Right.
You've
Not all
helped
the
me with
time,
that.
But yeah, it's like
But imagine you're selling and then you got 5 agents blowing you up because they have questions and
no time for that.
There's no time for anything.
So
and a family on top of it.
And I had to, so I had to make, I had to make the decision, and I did, and it wasn't easy because a couple things. Number one, it was my identity, right? I was a high producing agent. That's what I woke up, and that was how I was productive every day. That's how I felt like I was contributing. So to stop that production of showing homes all weekend long and going to listing appointments every night of the week and bringing all this additional income in addition to what the broker's bringing in, that was a hard thing to kind of like process. So,
but you were very smart about it. You didn't just give it up and just wipe your hands of it.
Yeah, and that was a process in itself, and it took me a couple different tries to figure that out. So initially what I did was I would just sprinkle any referrals that came in to the agents. And the problem was with that is they all weren't of the exact same, I don't say mindset, but they didn't have the exact same systems that I had.
Yeah.
They all had their own systems.
Right.
They wanted you for a reason.
Yeah, and the
Everybody's
way they were
different.
down to the client parties, how it helped people move. I'd bring,
Right.
pizza I'd buy the drinks for their housewarming parties. So all the things that made me referable, they weren't getting the same experience because
Right.
it wasn't a clone. Everybody wasn't an exact clone of me. So to take over my book of business. So what I had to do is I brought in a lifelong friend into the business, and I trained him for 3 years before I let him even speak to one of my clients. Put him on lead generation, put him through the ringer. And basically, he bought my book of business. He took over my administrative assistant, who put all my systems together, and my client parties and my pop buys and everything that I did. And then we transitioned it over, just like if you go into a dentist office and what is a dentist? If you're buying a dentist office, what are you buying? You're not buying the leased equipment or the building.
You're buying
clients.
that
book of
patience,
business.
yeah.
And you got to keep it, so with those patients, you got to keep it as the same service that you had with the initial dentist, or they're going to go somewhere else.
Absolutely.
Right.
And then you got to also tell them all what your plan is. But you were fortunate because you still are around. It's not like you're just retiring and leaving. Like, you're still there.
Yeah, and it was like, in the beginning, we had to figure out like, how do we do this transition, right? So a lot of times I'd go on the appointments, or I'd be at the first couple years of client parties, those kind of things. So people knew I'm here. I'm still, like, at the end of the day, if there's any issues or problems, I'm still around. And then they got to know, his name's Daryl. They got to know Daryl very well, and now Daryl's their agent, moving forward. So he's picked up everything that I've mentored and coached and trained him to be. He's done the same Buffini and by referral systems. So it's the same experience that the clients have when they need the same referral experience. So
That's gotta be scary for you, letting go of that kind of control to somebody. So that's good that you have somebody you train that well.
So I'll tell you a quick story. So I was tested because I in 2017, I think it was 2017, like January 2017, I put a line in the sand for myself, and I said, no matter what happens, I'm not going to jump back into sales, right?
Thank you. Leave some for us.
Yeah, but it was tough. It was.
Well, you were out because I met Daryl, yeah, right? Yeah, it was right about that time when you had kind of let go of the ball.
Yeah, so it was, so here's the story, and this is why it was so hard to let go and so easy to jump back in. So I had a really good friend of mine who was a client, and I had met this gentleman years prior. I'd done some ads, and his mother called me on a condo for a property I listed in Ellicott City. We became friends. I've done his real estate. He referred me business. Matter of fact, I was at his house probably a couple weeks prior to this, with our kids, and playing with his kids, and he fixed us dinner. It was Tina and I. We went there, and he reached out to me, and it was for the first week of January, and he texted me, right? So I communicate with people the way they communicate with me, right? So he texted me and said, Jim, I want to put my house on the market. I've located the property that I'd like to put a contract on down in Maple Lawn. So his property is an area called Grovemont in Elk Ridge. At the time, $750,000 sale all day long, put on the MLS, it's sold in an hour, right?
Nice.
We can do the math on a commission like that, 2.5%, 3%. If I was just on the listing side, start doing those numbers.
Right.
House he was going to put a contract on was new construction.
Oof.
$1.5 million, right?
Oh,
so,
God.
and at the time, builders were paying 3% to sign your name on a piece of paper.
Yeah, you don't have to
That's
do
nice.
anything.
So does anybody know the
sorry,
math?
sorry.
I am, and I'm a little jealous.
So we're talking $60,000-$70,000 worth of commissions on this one text message I got.
Which is
Right.
probably what you made a year at FedEx, or
That was
more than that.
About double what I made.
Okay, well, there you go.
So, with overtime. So I texted him back, you know, and I had had this conversation with him weeks prior. Hey, you see, we just opened the office down the street from you, working on, working on growing it and building. I'm focused more on, you know, growing the brokerage. I'm gonna have my partner Daryl reach out to you, you know, to get things moving. That's how I responded to him. It was like 25 minutes before it was the longest 25 minutes, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is why I can't just, I got to keep working with my clients. Like, this is a big deal. Think about that.
I
got $60,000-$70,000 on the line.
Oh God.
Which was just, you know, so 25 minutes goes by, and he texts back, okay, have Daryl call me.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
He trusts you that much.
So for me, but I can tell you, if you had been, no, it's okay, my brother-in-law is an agent, he's the next person I would call, thank you anyway. Like, that would have shifted probably so much for me. I would probably went right back into, I can't give this up, I can't let it go.
Right.
I need to keep, you know, because I'm going to just lose so much of my referrals that I've built over 17 years in relationships. But it went down that way, the way it did, and everything kind of worked itself out.
Do you think those relationships are what have made you so successful in this business?
Relationships in general have made me successful in this. So there's something that, and I'm talking about with other agents, with other brokers, with my clients.
And you're also, you know, at one point you even participated in government, local government in Howard County. I mean, you were very active, and that's what a lot of, like, look, and this is a great segue, because a lot of new agents that we talked about it, you're a prime example of a successful agent, the people you've brought on, and the common denominator is they're under your brokerage. So, you know, you always hear, oh, I'm so afraid to get into real estate because it's going to take me 12 months and I'm going to be running around rentals every night and every day in the worst neighborhoods. So as now an owner where you're not selling at all, you also have your son in the business. Mm-hmm. So because obviously it wasn't just, okay, we're just going to bring in new agents and they're all going to be successful out of the gate, because the success rate that your new agents have is something that, as I mentioned, I've never seen.
No,
because
the brokerage does this.
Right, and it's about, and I'll let you elaborate more, but it's about, you know, the trainings, and it's, you know, and what is provided. So how did that come about? Because obviously you let your production go, which gave you more time to focus on, okay, what can we do to make the brokerage now successful, more profitable, expand it, grow it. So where you are right now, like, walk us through that time frame.
I mean, it was a lot of trial and error, you know, in the beginning. So I built my business through referrals, right? So I basically created opportunities, however the opportunities were created, whether it was direct farm mail, or many years ago they started with online lead generation in a very archaic manner.
And it was handwriting notes to everybody you knew, telling everybody you were in real estate. You were pounding the pavement.
You know, it basically in the beginning, and again, so to kind of go back, I was a FedEx driver, right? And I worked in the service industry. So my sphere of influence, my network, they really didn't trust me to do their real estate, right? So to refer me to friends and family. So I had to earn that trust, and I had to show them that I was competent enough to be able to assist them and for them to be comfortable enough to refer me to their friends and family, because that's, when you refer, it's your name on the line. Right. So I understood, and I got that. So what I did was, you know, started to do, you know, what I call check equity. So spent a lot of money sending direct mail to people that didn't know me, and I built trust that way through sales by having success. Like the gentleman I was just telling you about, it was direct mail that I met his mother, who was selling her condo in that building that I did the direct mail, which cost me a lot of money, but at the end of the day, look at what I did with the relationships that I've built over those.
And
where there's opportunities.
that's the key. You use that as a springboard into what you eventually grew into.
It gave me opportunity to get in front of people, right? So it gave me opportunity to get in front of people. Then you have to work your magic from there, right? If you're not getting in front of people, somehow, some way, your business isn't going to grow. It's a contact sport, right?
Yeah.
It's face to face, belly to belly. So by having now the access to people that say, hey, I want to list my condo, or hey, maybe they were renting the condo. It was a condominium complex, 518 units, sent out a couple pieces every month, which is very expensive to somebody who's just starting out in the business.
Absolutely.
But they didn't know me, right? They just saw, I had put a nice shirt and tie on, put it on the postcards, because guess what they didn't have back then?
Internet.
Internet.
Social
Right.
media.
Social media.
That's what I was going to say. Like, our social media was sending out mailings every month.
And that's why we have to stay consistent on our social media now.
Yeah, now it's like, it's free, so
It's great.
I had to basically build people's confidence by showing them I was confident in having sales. So what we call evidence of success. So EOS, there was, one of the training programs by referral that I learned early on is you have to show your evidence of success. But back then I couldn't just post it on social media that had a settlement. So then what I did is not only did I send the marketing back out to that condominium complex, I sent it out to my sphere of influence. And whenever I just had it just listed or just sold, so then everybody saw that I was busy. I was actually making sales, and they felt comfortable now referring me.
So that you're the perfect example of taking lead generation and using that to springboard, which it's supposed to do, into building those relationships and cultivating a career out of real estate. So when you get new agents now and you're interviewing people, whether they have 3 years, 2 years, no years of experience, what are you looking for? And then how are you talking them off the ledge, basically? Because they're all probably saying, well, I just left, or I'm working at a job 9 to 5, I get a paycheck, and now you're telling me I only get paid if I close or sell a house. That net is gone now. So how do you, and this is what's so important about you and what yourself and Tina have done with your brokerage.
We don't take everybody. So we've learned over time. We, look, in the beginning we did. We're opening the doors. How do we grow
train
this thing,
people,
right? And we put a lot of time, energy, and money into people who didn't give themselves back the same effort, right? So we put 150, 200% of ourselves into somebody they don't even give 10% back. So what we figured out was we have to figure out how do we determine, and we're not right all the time, but a lot of times we pick up a marker. So if we're doing an interview, we're looking for fire in the belly. Like, if you have that drive and a fire in the belly, we can teach you everything else. We have all the tools, we can teach you everything else. The other thing is attitude. If someone's got a bad attitude and blames everything or why they're not successful on everybody else, they're going to do the same thing when they come with us. So those are kind of like two things that we kind of like automatically turn people away for. But if you have a good attitude and we can tell you're hungry, and if you have a strong why, we will create you and we'll build you in a rock star, right? We have all the tools, the training, the lead generation, like whatever you need to be successful, we've kind of figured it out, right? So, I mean, like we were talking about Rob earlier, who you brought into the company, and he was one of your clients, right? He worked at a high-level executive at Amazon, making great money. And he took a chance, but he hated it. He hated it, his lifestyle, right?
But
and,
he walked away from that. Wife's in school
Yeah.
and took a
Just
very
bought a
large
house.
salary. Right.
Just bought a house and quit his job.
I did his own mortgage. I know. He took a leap of faith
without even having a pipeline. So
right.
So he jumped here. Yeah, I mean, how many people get into this business and make over 100,000 GCI within less than their first year? So we've had agents make over $200,000 GCI their first year. So we have the tools, and the training, everything you need to kind of be successful. And I can tell you right now, like, that is very rare in this business.
Yes.
It's very rare. Because when you get in this business, you have to go out there, you have to be a hunter. You got to go out there and kill what you eat, right? It's not for everybody. So we look at that. We look at how, what does somebody have a strong enough why that's going to pull them through and make them want to get up 7 days a week to show homes and miss their, kids' games and those kind of things. Do they have, certain Do they have to make sure that their spouse just lose their job? Do they have to make this work? Make sure they can pay their bills, whatever the case may be. Or they just hungry. Some people are just super hungry.
Right.
He
Like
was
the
knowledgeable and hungry. He knew a
Yeah.
lot when we worked together. There were things that he would say that I was like, okay, you know a lot about this business. There's something you should be doing here.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
if you have a good work ethic and you're hungry, I mean, like you can teach anybody. I mean, sales is sales is sales. It's just what the product is.
I feel like this is less sales than any other sales job, though.
You're helping people. So at the end of the day, our biggest value is kind of, and this is kind of, I go back to what my grandfather did for me, is he just put all the pieces of the puzzle together and made it happen. And that changed the trajectory of my life and my career by getting me into real estate, right? So I look at it, for us, we can do the same. We have the ability to do that same thing for people. We help them build their wealth, right, through real estate. And we can teach them and talk to them about, okay, well, look, when you go to buy your next home, it might not be in your best interest to sell the home. Why don't you keep this as a rental and build your portfolio of real estate, or hey, every time you want to pay for your child's tuition, every time you have a new child, buy a rental property. In 18 years, it's probably going to be paid off, and you're going to probably have $200,000, $400,000 in equity.
Right.
And there you go. Or
Just
either cash it
sitting
out
there.
and use it on college. So you can have those conversations, which changes people's lives, right?
Definitely.
So, but to go back to your question, Keith, like there's a couple things that we figured out over the years, and initially when we opened the brokerage, since I built my business on referrals, like that's what we taught. Okay, well, touch base with people, and call people that and do pop-bys and handwritten notes, and eventually, I look at that as the farming mentality.
Because you do have agents that have been with you like almost since day one.
Yeah.
Santi and
Yeah,
Daryl.
You know,
agents 15, 17 years.
Like Bob, I mean, there's a bunch
Yeah.
of them that have been there from the get-go that aren't that big with the lead generation,
They don't
but
need
they're
it.
all self-gen.
Mhm.
But so they started just like you did basically.
Yeah, Dennis was my original buyer agent, back in Remax days. So, and that speaks volumes to me that people trust me enough, and I provide
They've
enough
stayed
value
with you for
Right.
that
to
long.
stay that many.
So
Especially
now-
given the other companies that try to poach all of
Oh,
us
yeah.
agents
All day
from
long.
you all the
Because
time. They see the success.
well, they see the numbers they're putting
Right,
up, which
right.
again,
Yeah.
so when did that like kind of shift, like bringing guys in that you kind of patent themselves like after what you did versus okay, well, we can really grow this thing because if we can interview 10 people and 4 of them have that we can provide this now and they're just taking off.
Yeah, so a couple things. Like, first, what we provided was the training, right? So we provide the training, but it's the practical stuff. Like, how do you write a contract? What do you say on a listing agreement? What NLP techniques do you use when you're with embedded commands when you're talking to a client, right? What closing technique? All these things that you typically don't get in training. Like, that's kind of how we started with our trainings back in the day. Over time, it's evolved. So basically, what we figured out was, okay, now everybody knows how to do the business, but it was tough because it would take a while for momentum to kick in
Right.
if they were just contacting their database or putting stuff on social media.
And then when that happens, people get frustrated.
They leave. So they could be the best trained agent on writing a contract, but if they don't have any clients to write a contract for, the wind's going to let out their sales and they're going to leave the business.
So how do you get the clients? That's the
Yeah.
big one.
So how do you get the opportunities, right? So I look at it as, we're talking about, so we got focused heavily into lead generation years ago, and it was basically what I had to do was equate it to, well, when I got started, I put in the check equity for the database and the postcards and the farming and all that, but a lot of people don't have that kind of income to just.
They don't have that
Yeah,
money
yeah.
laying
You
around
haven't
because
made money yet.
it gets
So-
expensive.
And
Yes.
what I did,
You also had your job, your FedEx
Well,
job for a while.
but it was,
right.
I could barely pay my bills with it, right?
Right.
So, to be honest, but what I did was I had $7,000 in my 401k from FedEx, and I had credit cards. Cashed it all in, and I spent $2,000 a month on marketing, and it was 7 months before I got my first call. How many people are going to spend $14,000 and stay with it before they get a call?
Not it.
No,
I mean, that's
right? But
that's
I was
a lot
all
of
in,
money.
like that fire in the belly. What I had,
And
that's
that's
what
the
you need.
difference, right?
Yeah.
That is the difference maker.
So what we had to figure out was how do we provide, if people have the fire in the belly but not the resources, we can provide the training, how do we provide opportunities to get in front of people? Maybe they're not the greatest leads that are ready to buy today. A lot of them are, but what if they're not? At the end of the day, you're getting in front of somebody to have a conversation.
And you're
Right.
building relationships.
You build relationships. It's a database is a list of relationships. That's what it is. So when you're building a database, you want to put in like, what are their favorite activities? What's their favorite restaurants? I take notes, like if they talk about things like, if they talk about their pets, all that stuff, I'm writing down on the MLS card.
Right.
And then I go back and I put it in my database with the notes, and then I send out a handwritten note. Like I have them in my car and I'm dropping in the mail as I go, right?
That's the way to
How many
do
people
it.
do that, right? So those are the things that you don't have unless you have the opportunity. Like if you don't have people to kind of to share that with and get in front of, then
Right. What are you doing?
yeah. So what we decided was years ago. Okay, we have really amazing trained agents with nothing to do, right? Besides their activities and all the effort that they're doing, we need to provide sources of leads that they don't have to put money out for up front, right? We have a lot of lead generation that you pay referral fees on the back end for, but that's more what we call sweat equity versus check equity, right? So you're putting
Right.
the work in, you got to pay for the back end. So
Which is a lot better than putting the money up front and potentially losing money.
Yep. It's what got me started.
Right.
it's less risk based.
Yes.
Then
Yeah.
basically, if you have the hustle and the drive, like you can build it from there. And what we try to teach our agents is become relational in addition to transactional. So lead generation is very transactional if you let it be. Next, right? Because the calls keep coming.
And there's
Keep coming.
people that could build a career just doing that.
And we have many agents doing that. And but once you figure out and take the time or hire somebody, to take the data for you, if you don't have time, if you're out too busy selling because the leads are coming in so heavy, have somebody that puts that information into a database, arranges your client parties, does the things that you need to do to
Right.
build relationships. And
And
once that
that's where you
happens,
grow.
that's where I see, the evolution of the agents, where they become, at that point, then they become bigger than they could have imagined, right? So, and then they have to hire support staff to kind of do all the back end things, and they just go out and sell. And you can, build teams that way, and you can just you could build a single agent system with multiple administrators that way. And we have, agents that make as much as surgeons,
Yes.
right? And you think about this, how many years of school does it take to become a surgeon?
Yeah.
Like
12.
20 years.
More
You know,
than I did.
You got you
After high school, it's 12, so
Yeah.
that's a lot.
and how much in
30 total, yeah.
in malpractice insurance, all those things,
Right.
to get to that point where in real estate, if you have the drive and the right tools and the right opportunities, you can make the same income.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful
But
thing about
you're
real estate.
providing that extra little kick in the butt, whereas, and I know for a fact, a lot of brokerages, they're doing all the same stuff, like, send out your mailings, tell everybody, but you have tangible stuff that you're giving them to hopefully they're out of the gate, they're getting live calls, they're talking to people, they're calling people.
Yeah.
Better training.
So I use analogies all the time. So I look at it, I use the expression, so when you get started in real estate, yes, you have to be a farmer and you have to plant the seeds. But can you feed your family with the seeds you planted today?
No.
Unless you go,
Right.
them out of the ground and eat pumpkin seeds. So no, you can't. But over time, you nurture them, and the harvest will happen over time. So, what do you do now to feed your family or feed yourself? Like, you have to go out there and be a hunter, right? You got to, and in this business, it's called prospecting. It's hunting. So even with that being said, we know this, and this is how you get going in the business. Not many people like rejection.
No.
So not many people like going and knocking on the door and having the door slammed. I've had guns pulled. I've door knocked and had guns pulled on me.
It's scary if you've never done it.
Especially in
if
today's
you've
world.
Right, if you've never been 100% commission and not a guaranteed check, it's scary.
Yeah. So, even down to calling FSBOs expired, so it's a lot of rejection, and not too many people make it through that long, right? So what we had to figure out was, okay, how do we help in the hunting process? And what we learned was there's not going to be a lot of proactive hunting going on, But what we need to do is we need to train on how to, and this is where the analogy comes in, to convert, right? So when we give you the opportunities, how you can convert that into something tangible, into a relationship, into a sale, into showing homes, into experience, into talking to listing agents, like all these things, right? So what we had to do is we had to figure out how we teach the psychology of who we're dealing with, who's our audience.
Right.
And then we taught that, but not only that, you look at, okay, you have to be a hunter, but even being a hunter, you got to go out with a bow and arrow, sit in a tree stand for 6 hours, shoot the deer, drag the deer back and skin it. So what if, that's still a lot of work, it's still a lot to ask. What if I took that deer
And just
as a
serve them
brokerage
up, right?
Put it right
and
in front of
dropped it on your front porch, and all I had to teach you how to do was
Skin it.
and find out what meat to eat, right? So that's what we do. we drop it in your lap. We even make the appointments. So we even took that part out. We set the appointments and you meet the client. So we've taken all that work out. Now all we want you to do is build relationships.
Yeah, you're not even really asking them to do a hard sale. I mean, they're walking in almost to a warm lead, and you're just asking them to be them, just establish a relationship.
And that's where the magic happens, right? That's when people start trusting you. And then we're going to talk about, okay, well, how I had to send postcards out back to my network. Now, once you have those opportunities of going to a home inspection, you have a settlement, these are things that you can use to create your own social proof, your evidence of success in today's market. Now you're doing the activities and you can share that on social media. Hey, I'm out showing a house today. Hey, I'm at a settlement today. Then your network's like, wow, Ruth Ann's out there killing it.
I saw you loved my post yesterday about my home inspection.
Exactly.
And that's going to
gets you
get
on the radar.
right, and it gets the phone ringing. So here's and I know, because I've known Jim for a lot of years, and I've seen agents that have left, that some of them have gone even and opened their own brokerages, which is a testament to how you've groomed a lot of these people. There's some that have left and come back, but just like in any type of lead generated, when you're doing lead generation, some people will I don't agree with it. Some people will poo-poo it. Oh, you're getting leads and, you're giving up, because, you gotta take a lower tier sometimes, or you're giving up some of your commission. Well, the fact of the matter is, regardless of what you're giving up, even if you're not giving that up, but you're not getting any leads, so 0 of nothing is 0, so, but this is giving them an opportunity. I mean, just watching agents that have come into the industry first year, seeing what they've done, what they're closing, I mean, they're never going to get that at any other brokerage. I mean,
your family and friends don't trust you yet, but once they see you closing
once they
deals,
see you
they get it,
and you're closing a ton
of
of business, that's just going to naturally grow you.
Right.
The more you take advantage of, posting it on social media, and then people start seeing you blowing up.
Right.
But at other places, you're not getting this opportunity. So, you don't have to pay anything back, but this guy is doing 10 deals to your 2 deals.
It's the cost of acquisition. So that's what I look at. Like
there's nothing for free in this world.
And it goes back to, look, I'll teach you how to door knock. I'll teach you how to call for expireds.
Right, you don't have to do it like this.
Yeah, you don't have to pay for lead generation through our referral source. Because it's not an income for us. It goes right to the lead source, right? So whether Zillow, OpCity, Realtor.com, Referral Exchange, whatever company the lead comes from that we use. So, but at the end of the day, those are all from relationships and things that I've built over time to be able to provide for everybody.
Right.
So,
and that's why other brokers they can't provide even if they wanted to.
Correct.
They can't do
Most
that.
of them have been dropped from the Zillow platform, but somehow you've managed to keep us on Zillow Flex, and we're one of the few brokerages in Maryland that still offer that to our people. Why do you think that is, though? Planting the seed, watering it.
Coaching and accountability.
Yeah.
Right. So we're not easy. As far as the accountability side, like this is a resource that we can't afford to lose for all of our agents. So there's accountability measures as far as what we expect from our agents. There's the conversion of the appointment, right? So how do you set the appointment without getting in your own way? And that took some time to figure out also, because in the beginning the initial call is recorded, and there wasn't, the consistency was a lot of times the agents were talking the consumer out of seeing the home. So until we shifted that psychology of the audience, like who's calling in, all they want to do is see the home, right? So just show them the home. If people click on Uber, they just want to ride from A to B. They don't want all the other stuff. So just give them that access, and then build the rapport, build the relationship.
That's the key.
Yeah.
You're giving them the keys. I mean, you're putting them in front of that buyer that they so desperately want and are trying to find, and you're putting it right in their lap, and you're asking them just
don't screw it up.
just establish a relationship, be yourself, and then look, this may not be the house they buy, but now you have an opportunity to reach out, show them more homes, ask them if they know anybody looking, and that's how it slowly builds.
And it's important because that's just the way that the business is starting to go. People, it used to be most of the people came from an open house or something, and now the stats are showing they're coming online, and that's how they're finding their next realtor.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm looking for a home in South Florida, I have friends that are agents there, but they may not be in the area that I'm looking. So where do I go? I go online to look at homes. So a lot of people, they don't know agents in certain areas. So there are a lot of businesses happening online. It's just the way to. Where do you shop for anything nowadays?
Online.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how many probably Amazon boxes you have delivered to your house every week.
I don't want to talk about that.
So, but it just is what it is, right?
That's embarrassing.
But that's we figured that out years ago. But at the end of the day, like you got to look at what do you do with that opportunity once you have it, right? And that's going to be the most important thing. Like you can continue to do transactional business, which is fine, but you're going to keep paying for it, or you build the relationships, and then you just increase your income by that much. So. Those are some key takeaways I would say that, if you're thinking about getting the business or you need to grow your business, it's going to be, once you have the training of how to do the business, what are you going to do to get the business? Because you can be the best trained agent, like I said earlier, know the contracts inside and out, be a great negotiator, but if you don't have opportunities to get in front of people to make the sales and build the relationships, then it's a tough business to be in.
It is. And this, we were kidding about it earlier. I mean, look, the market it's a more difficult market, I would say, than it's been. But look, the housing industry is so important for the economy that, things will turn. But people still need to buy homes. People are always looking, and it's too much for something bad to happen, which again, I mean, there's a lot of factors, so we just have to see what happens with the rates. I mean, everybody's freaking out about inventory, but again, I mean, you're getting calls. I mean, people still want to buy, and it's in lieu of the rates. And I mean, again, it's just a matter of having conversations with people and educating them.
Right, and there's still lots of people out there renting that are realizing that they're throwing a lot of money away
Right,
every
because rents
single
are
day.
going up. I mean, it's crazy. But this has been an awesome podcast, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, right? I mean, Jim he's a prime example of literally starting at ground zero and then building it up to how many agents do you have now? Under your
130s, I believe.
130 agents, and I
Some
mean,
great support staff.
yeah, I mean, you got the support staff in place, and you have a formula where the agents have an opportunity that they're never going to get, or it's going to be very difficult to get at most other brokerages, or for agents that are starting out or that have been in for a little while but haven't really done much. But it's not like you're forcing them to do it that way. They can do it whichever way they want. You're providing the opportunity to build the relationships, which is what this business is all about.
That's why I drive past 20 other brokerages on my way into the office.
Literally.
Right.
Literally.
And
Maybe more.
This is one thing I would say, like, if and when you're getting a business, or if you're trying to grow your business and you're already in it, you need to find a mentor or a coaching platform or somebody who's actually doing the business that you want to do, and try to follow that person, right? What are they doing? Where your success leaves clues. So no matter, you can't figure this out on your own. You just can't. There's so many people that get in the business and they don't have the support. They don't want to pay for the coaching. the company they go to doesn't have, and that's kind of like why we built what we built.
Right,
as far
they
as
watch
coaching.
$1 million listing on whatever it is, and they think
That's
it's
so
this
not
big
accurate.
glamorous life,
Yeah.
but it's a grind. I mean,
Yeah.
you gotta work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
You do.
Yeah, and you have to figure out how you're going to do your business and what. And again, are you going to pay for a coaching system if you're going to go somewhere that doesn't have like any mentors or programs to kind of get you launched? It's all about the launch, right? If you don't get launched correctly in this business, you're going to be out, right? So
That's such a good analogy.
yeah, and I bounced to 4 different brokerages within my first year, trying to figure out like, can I get some help? Am I going to get the secret formula over here?
So you've already laid down the groundwork. You did all that BS up front, bouncing around to find the right recipe, and people, all you can provide is the opportunity.
And they
Right.
do. They provide more than that. We now provide coaching, mentorship, all of that as part of it, so you don't have to go pay a coach
Right.
outside.
I mean, it's unlike what a lot of brokerages do out there.
And try to find like from the different all the things that really stuck out to me that I enjoyed or that worked. Piece those together. Piece together what I learned from coaching. Because I've been coached for many years on the agent level, on the broker level, on the business level. Like totally believe in coaching. So I've taken all those tools. It's cost me a lot of money, but I've taken all those tools and tips and things, and we put together a program basically for free.
Right, so your
Just to-
agents
yeah.
aren't coming in going broke before they even close a deal.
And they're not going at it alone. They're coming in and having somebody help them with their deals, teach
A lot
them
of
how to do
support.
stuff.
Yeah, a lot of support. It's it's unlike, in exit there's a bunch, you have exit results realty. So you may run your office different than exit in another region, but just the way you guys have put it together, like there's a plan from the day one you start, to getting all your trainings done, to getting on this platform, to that platform. Like all you have to do is listen and just follow the train.
And again, that's why I drive by other exit offices on my way into our office.
So, this was great. I just want to thank Jim again
Yes.
for coming on.
Thank you.
Provided a ton of information,
Pleasure.
and we will see everybody soon.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, a
See you
week,
then.
maybe sooner than that. See you guys.
Thank you.